Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of Let's Take 5, the podcast where we pick a cinema great and just look at 5 films that are definitive of their greatness. We are now on the second set, which is featuring Billy Wilder. Before we get into that, I want to say I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Ray Martindale.
And thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about Sunset Blvd, which is our second film in his set. We previously covered Ninotchka, and coming up are Ace in the Hole, Some Like It Hot, and The Apartment.
Decent films. Decent lineup of films Mr. Wilder had.
Yeah. He's a pretty talented guy, as we're going to keep discovering.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
There are rumors to this effect.
So I got to watch Sunset Blvd for the first time in a while. Sunset Blvd was a film that my father always considered one of the best movies ever made. So I grew up with it around me, but I never actually watched it. For some reason, I have a lot of memories of my father watching Godfather Part 3, oddly. And I don't know if it's because that one was the one that always wasn't fresh in his mind whenever I was young. And also, when I was young, that one was the new one, and actually not that old. Yeah. At that point, maybe like 4 years old, 5 years old, by the time I remember watching it. But I remember the Godfather films being films that he absolutely adored, and Sunset Blvd being one as well. Or at the very least, he would always talk about it. So when I had the first time I had an opportunity to watch this film, it was Christmas, like, let's see, this would have been Christmas like 2004. Mm-hmm. This was sort of the last gasp. My parents, we didn't have tons of money growing up. We didn't have a lot of money. Let's say like lower middle class, right on the brink of middle, I guess. I don't know. We didn't have a ton of money. There was definitely had to worry about the bills. And but they always went all out for Christmas. That was always a big thing that they would do. And they had decided that this year would sort of be the last gasp as far as Christmas was concerned. And I was 17 years old at the time, which, I mean, yes, look, that's fine. So I decided to kick off my movie and DVD collection. And I decided to pick I literally made a list of like 30 films and said, pick from these films. And Sunset Blvd was one of the films that I put on there that I didn't know. And my parents actually purchased a good amount, I would say 80 to 90% of all the films that I listed. Yeah, and not all of them are actually, there were a lot of those movies were movies that I thought were good, that I actually didn't, like, for instance, Scarface was on the list. It's a movie I don't even like.
I was about to guess Scarface.
Yeah, but in my head, like, that was a movie I needed to see. Mm-hmm. And that's how I saw 2001 for the first time. A lot of movies, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that end up being my favorite movies ever. Mm-hmm. Sunset Blvd was on that list, and Sunset Blvd was one of the movies I watched on actual Christmas Day for the first time. I saw one other time after that, about 2 years after that, and then I saw it again a few days ago. So there had been a long gap.
I remember when I first saw it, I was in high school, and my library had such an amazing video and DVD collection. So I was going through all the great Hollywood films, and Billy Wilder was someone who actually snuck up on me, because I was renting, not in order, but Sunset Blvd, Double Indemnity, Some Like It Hot. Those things that are on like the AFI list.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like I was watching, I don't know, Witness and the Prosecution, there was, it's the same guy directing all of these. And they're so dramatically different, and they're all incredible.
Well, I don't think it's any surprise that when we actually posted a link about this on Facebook, that my dad actually commented on the link, which I'm pretty sure you saw,
yeah, I
right?
did.
Where he pointed out a lot of different films that we could do, and indeed, Billy Wilder is someone who has a filmography that does kind of sneak up on you, because when I was thinking about people that you could actually do Let's Take 5 on, the first one that came to mind was Akira Kurosawa. For me, the first one that came to mind for you was Alfred Hitchcock. Mm-hmm. Billy Wilder didn't come to mind for me, but really, yeah, right?
Yeah, he absolutely can, and it's very fun to watch this one next after Ninotchka. Ninotchka was something he just co-wrote, and he wrote it with his writing partner Charles Brackett, who also co-wrote this film as well. But these films can't be any more different.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, over 10 years has gone by. He has now become a major Hollywood success. He won Best Picture with The Lost Weekend in the 40s. He's had other films. But this one really is a cold examination of his own job.
Well, it is, and on top of that, it is, if Hollywood, let's say Hollywood in this film is the set piece that we used, or the means at the end that we used to tell a story, like in Ninotchka, where we used Soviet Russia versus the West, right,
Yeah.
or capitalism. With a romance, this is an anti-romance.
Sure.
Yeah, in fact, this movie is the antithesis of romantic. You actually have two examples of it in the film that are anti-romance, right?
Well, we have, I assume you're referring to Norma Desmond, who we're going to get a lot into soon. And then the more traditional Hollywood romance is with Betty Schaefer, who is his age. They are cute together. They kind of have similar ideals, even though he's lost them a little bit. But she's married or engaged.
She's engaged to a friend of his that is...
one of his only friends.
Right, and someone that he continually says is a great guy or like a perfect guy. And in the film, actually, this character, it's weird that we're talking about him first before we dive into Norma Desmond, but I think it's interesting. The one point of this character is every time the William Holden character...
Joe Gillis.
Joe Gillis is with her. He always pokes his head in somewhere in one of the thirds of the screen and goes, "You're not trying to take my girl, are you?" He does it like 5 different times.
It's subverting it so much because you assume there's going to be, they had the meet cute, it's all going to be this.
Or when would he ever actually even have time? Because he's over at over at Norma Desmond's mansion the whole time, right? So do you want to get more into the plot? Or
sure.
This movie is a little more popular, so I don't think, it's extremely popular, so going in and breaking down...
I think we could say the general
broad strokes.
Elements, and I think if we get into the ending, that's not a big deal. The story is about a screenwriter who is down on his luck. He is $300 short, or they're going to take his car away. It's just desperate to sell any script, and his script's just going to get more and more lower denominator. Make it as simple and as not overtly stupid, but just make it as a simple baseball pick.
Yeah,
and he just still can't get a script sold. He meets Betty Schaefer, who remembers when he actually used to write important things, and important things doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, she's the script reader at Paramount.
Yeah. So after being rejected again and being chased down for a guy trying to get his car,
repossess his car.
He goes off on a side road in Hollywood, and he stumbles upon this mansion. And inside this mansion is a woman named Norma Desmond, who used to be a major silent film star.
Yeah.
And this taking place in the 50s when the movie came out.
Right.
And so no one's making silent films anymore, and no one's seen her forever. And she's been a recluse in this mansion.
That's decrepit.
Yeah.
It's decayed. It's old. It's old mansion. It's old money, right?
And it's so creepy. You have this butler, Max, who we'll get into more. And the weirdest part of the whole movie is very early on when they introduce this mansion, when they're having a funeral for a monkey.
Yeah, and they think that that he has showed up to
take the monkey
away. They think that Joe Gillis is arrived with a coffin to actually put the chimp or monkey, whatever, and dispose of it again. Really, but this actually really works for me. So first of all, this is the inciting incident of the film. He is driving away from the people that are going to repossess his car, and his car has a blowout. So it's total circumstance. He has to pull into this mansion, right?
Yeah.
And this is late in the film for an inciting incident, particularly in the 50s. I mean, the character that we hear so much about, the Norma Desmond character, it doesn't show up. This is like minute 25 or 30. I mean, it's later in the film, and then it's really weird, this whole thing with the chimpanzee or whatever. But it's otherworldly. Like I think that it's completely different from what we start off in his apartment when he's writing a script that is a lone, small studio apartment to the wide open spaces with nothing filling them. No, like there's just this huge open area of the mansion, right?
And that's kind of watching it again this time. I was just very amused by the recluse nature of Hollywood in this. Sometimes it's intentional, and sometimes it's forced upon you.
It seems lonely.
It seems very lonely.
Yeah, even on Sunset Boulevard in this area, that's where all the money is, right? And then there's all these beautiful homes and all of this opulence.
Yeah,
It's creepy.
It is, and some of the cynicism really comes from looking at that behavior. The film is very worrisome about how Norma lives her life, and utter denial, where she still thinks all of her fans are waiting for her, at any moment. She gets all these fan letters, which are definitely not real.
Yeah, we find out that the fan letters are being written by her butler, Max, who was a director of silent films that she was actually in, and then there's another thing about him, which I might as well say it now, who was also ends up being who was her first husband as well. You find out that Norma Desmond has been married 3 times, and she's also attempted to kill herself several times, and she's working on a script that's twice the size of War and Peace is what it looks like. It's going to be way too expensive to be made, and it's bad. So she employs Joe to write this script, and he knows it's bad too. But if she's going to fit the bills for him, he's going to write it. But yeah, there's obviously a critique on the way. There's several things. Also, the Hollywood lifestyle is obviously under the microscope here, and how rich you are and how big you get can always be pulled out from under you. Obviously, that's a theme here. And this happened to a lot of silent film stars.
Some of which are in the film.
And some of which are actually in the film.
Yeah.
But also, too, how out of touch you get when you have that much money, right? And you're that rich, and how segregated you are from everyone else. Norma Desmond, this is one of the most parodied. Also... one of the more fascinating performances of the decade, probably.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Gloria Swanson plays Norma Desmond, and while it's a type of performance, you're going to hear me say this a lot on the podcast, this is a type of performance that would not exist today. It would come off today as clowny and cheesy, and it wouldn't fit with the world. But for what they're going for here, and then, of course, the time the movie was made, the character should be really whacked out, right?
And the casting was brilliant. The casting... across the board is so smart. Gloria Swanson was in a part of her career where she was also being forgotten by Hollywood.
Yep.
She was bigger a couple decades ago, and now not as much. And this was kind of her revival. But unfortunately, this became such an iconic performance. She was kind of just then typecast as the insane diva.
Yeah.
But the person who plays the butler is Eric von Stroheim, who also was a director. He actually doesn't act that often. And he was a real director. He made a lot of amazing films in the 30s, including silent films.
Yeah.
And there's a poker game they have with lots of silent film stars, most notably Buster Keaton, who is still just a delight to watch on as he's just looking at all the cards.
So they spend some time watching, Norma spends time with... a lot of time with Joe because she keeps him there to hide away from his debtors, but also to make sure that he's working on her script, right?
Yeah.
Which he can't really work on because she's over his shoulder. I never actually get the impression that he's that good of a screenwriter, to be honest with you.
I bet he is. Betty is the kind of our voice of wisdom, and Betty implies that he was good, and now he's just he's fine.
Yeah, I think that he's lazy.
Lazy is great.
Yeah, I think at the very least. He doesn't. He looks at her project immediately. Judges it before he even opens the page. Yes, of course it does suck, but it's convenient for it to suck for him, so he can spend a lot of time messing around with it, right, and mooch off of her.
And this is also causing his own isolation. He is hiding from the world because of the debtors, but also because he's just encountering failure all the time.
And Betty's trying to get a hold of him because there's one part of one of his scripts that she thinks she can turn into a full feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how you have characters creating their own sense of isolation, but then also the society of Hollywood doing it for them anyway.
Yeah.
Once you are a certain age, you are pushed away and forgotten.
Yeah, it's the word that came to mind was mausoleum. That's what it feels like. But there's one thing that I wanted to point out that I think is actually extraordinarily important is that is in part of Norma Desmond forming a relationship with Joe. They have they watch some of her old silent films, right? And he actually comments, Joe does, that he's happy that Max had to run the projector, or elsewise he would be playing actually in the room playing the organ. And at this point, we're going to get into Norma starting to fall in love with Joe. in a little bit, and actually what that is. But you see her put her arm around him during the movies. But you watch a clip from one of her silent films, and I actually thought she was electrifying in that little bit of...
Yeah.
Because, I mean, silent film is, it's like acting with mask, okay, or some sort of silent commedia dell'arte. It's like you have to be extraordinarily expressive, right?
Yes.
Because you don't have any other tools but your face, which is mentioned nonstop in the film. And also part of why I think the Norma Desmond character works so well is because she's, as I said, she seems whacked out, but she's so expressive. She constantly has to be expressive because she's caught in an era that doesn't exist anymore, literally, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that scene was impressive when we saw the silent film and actually saw her, because she was incredible in that little clip.
And I never really fully called it a romance when I see Norma and Joe. I think it's because she's so desperate for an audience and so desperate for fans. There's an amazing moment when she actually leaves her mansion and she's going to an actual studio lot to see Cecil B. DeMille playing himself. And there's a point, it gives me chills when I watch it, when one of the people on the crew recognize her and he shines the big light on her. And all I think is like, no, this is not. I don't think this is a good psychological thing to do to her right now. Don't give her a spotlight.
Then in a lot of ways, I think that's kind of the fulcrum of the plot, because now she always wanted to get back into pictures, but once she pitches her script and she's at the studio and this guy shines one of the spots on her, she's transformed again, and she has her. Actually, it's probably the happiest moment of the film as well, because everyone at the studio recognizes her, and there's a lot of these people are the stars, the current stars, and they all surround her. They mob her like she's the hot item, right?
Right.
But it's fleeting, because 5 minutes later they turn the spotlight off her, and that's it. And she actually cries.
Yeah.
It
was amazing. Also, she walks into that area. She's talking to DeMille, and she has no humility. She still insists, like, DeMille doesn't know what she's talking about this picture at all. But she's saying that I'm still only going to work from never before 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm only going to work till 4. So it's not like, I know I haven't been in the pictures for 20 years, but no, I'm still going to be the megastar because the world has paused in her mind. Because she's removed herself from it. She doesn't know what the new films are.
Do you think that Norma is sympathetic? Do you feel bad for her in this film?
I do, a lot of times, and it's because she's sometimes just quite childlike. She's just so ignorant about the world around her because she can't face not having the world be the way it was. She has an inability to adapt. Yeah. And that causes it to be very destructive because it becomes to a point where she is just basically kidnapping Joe, keeping her in her fortress, and then ultimately, spoiler, she kills Joe.
Yeah. Joe's complicit in this, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe has a chance in the film to break away.
Yeah.
In fact, he does. But then Norma attempts suicide. Again, she does this apparently a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there are no door handles on any of the doors in the house. That way she can't lock herself in the door.
Yeah.
But in one of I think the most creepy, I thought this was the creepiest scene in the film. So they have a New Year's party where the only guests are Joe and her. Joe doesn't know this until it starts. There's a full-on orchestra, and they're a small one, but they got the cello, they got the violin, and they're playing music, and Max, the butler, is serving the hors d'oeuvres, and this goes on for a really long time, and before Joe realizes, oh wait, there are no more guests, because he goes, it's after 10 o'clock, and then she's talking about how she did the tango with Valentino in the room and all this other stuff. So he leaves the party. She goes upstairs to commit suicide. She fails. Max he calls back. Max tells her that she's tried to commit suicide, so he rushes back over to the house. The band, the orchestra, is still playing in the room to no one. That, creeped me out.
Yeah.
The whole party is still going on in that room with no one in there, and who knows how long it's been. since he left and came back. Like
Yeah.
that really that chilled me a little bit. There is a creepiness to this film that I think
Absolutely.
is definitely there.
We haven't talked about Billy Wilder as a director yet. I mean, he co-wrote this screenplay, and this screenplay is incredible, not only structurally what we're talking about, but also this is a film noir, and it has fantastic film noir dialogue.
Yes.
All the way through. It's just witty as all hell. But as a director, man, it is unnerving, the use of shadows, and you talked about just how different the locations are. It's like she's created her entire home to be a film set more than an actual livable house.
Yeah, yes. I
Yeah,
agree with that.
it is, and it's so amazingly paced as well.
Yeah, it's very well paced, and this is where I got to the point where I said he's complicit because Joe ends up sleeping with her that night. So at this point, he's signed his death warrant. He's committed to this, and then shortly thereafter, it may be the next scene, we see him in the restored swimming pool.
Yep. Which is how the film begins. The film begins with a dead body in the pool.
Floating in a pool.
And they sure imply it's him at the beginning, but they don't officially say it. But he's the narrator. And just look at that guy. He always wanted a pool.
Yeah, I was letting it pull.
Yeah.
And then you see him, the restored pool and him coming out. He's still very honest with her. Like, she'll say stuff like, "Oh yeah, they used to," or she goes, "Oh, the fans will come flocking once this movie comes out," and he says, "Will they come flocking, Norma, or did they used to come flocking, Norma?" Or something to that effect. You know, he tries to ground her. He does attempt to what's the word? Rehabilitate her.
Well, to a point, because if he fully cracks the egg, then he has nowhere to go.
Yeah,
He is very
that's
selfish in that regard, where I don't think he needs to be as needed as much as Norma does, but he enjoys being somewhere rent-free.
true. Yeah.
He enjoys avoiding those hassles, and he enjoys working a little bit, even though it's dumb.
Yeah. So he starts sneaking out to work on a script with Betty Schaefer.
Yeah.
And Norma catches wind of this, and she's not very happy about that. She assumes that he's having an affair, which... define affair.
Yeah.
I guess. This is the woman we mentioned earlier in the film. She's a script reader for Paramount, but she wants to actually move up to actually be a script writer. She's obviously got talent.
Yeah.
This may be a sign of the times that she's a woman and she's a reader. It might have something to do with that. I don't know if that's a political statement the movie's trying to make back then. I think it certainly serves as one now.
The film definitely comments on women in the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not be surprised with that. I
Yeah.
mean, Norma, Cecil B. DeMille is older than Norma Desmond, but he's still working.
Yeah.
Sure, he's behind the camera, but he's in front of the camera for this film.
Yeah,
We're getting meta about it.
I think it's definitely there. It's definitely implied, and she has Norma has a ferocious jealousy towards Betty because she's young.
Yeah.
And she's probably pretty. And one of the better we're going to get to a couple things of the film that I don't like.
Okay.
And they're going to be in this last third of the stretch. I know I said before that we were going to praise the film, and I do love the film, but
Yeah.
there are a couple things that I think I should mention. So even though I enjoy the Betty Schaefer romance, and it has one of the more, again, the movie has a creepy haunting type of edge to it. They walk on vacant lots while they discuss the script when they take breaks, and they walk down a lot that looks like a town, but it's really just a facade and buildings that are empty, but it actually... I don't know, something about... It's like once the carnival shuts down at night, do you want to be inside a carnival at 3 a.m.?
That's true.
That just creeps me out, right? That's the same time. I get that same type of vibe. I don't buy Betty's turn, I guess. There's not enough justification for me that Betty, who is engaged to someone who she loves very much, and she talks about that repeatedly, it almost seems very convenient that... And he was into Betty, too. Joe was into Betty. It seems very convenient that would flip without really... I guess the relationship is implied more than it's actually shown, and I don't know if it works for me.
I think, it's very brief, the interactions we see with Betty and her fiancé, but I think part of the reason why she was attracted to Joe was the idea of which is the opposite of Norma, which is moving forward. It's moving forward career-wise, moving forward in your own talent, and evolving to the times, and having someone who wants to encourage you to evolve forward. Whereas, I feel bad to slack on the guy we barely see, but she's just stuck being a reader, and there's nothing really that he implies that saying that she should be better than that, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think you can have all that without her falling in love with him.
I understand.
Yeah, I guess that's my whole issue with it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It just seems like a very easy way to lead towards the climax of the film, which works better because the climax of the film is she comes over to Norma, calls her because she assumes an affair is going on, and by this point she's mostly rightish, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though, she's mostly rightish. And she actually phones Betty Schaefer and starts spilling the whole beans about where Joe's been spending his days and his nights and that sort of thing, right? And then Betty Schaefer comes over and sort of kicks off the final act of the film here, right?
And that scene when she arrives is one of my favorite scenes in the movie from William Holden's acting performance, because what he's doing as he's just given up as a man, and just he's given a tour of this house that is his prison. Yeah. And just, bragging in a way of, I fucking quit.
Yeah, and very film noir-y here.
Oh, yeah.
In particular, he's very deadpan and goes, yes, this is the house that I live in. These are the people that I mooch off of. That's the pool. See that pool? I've always wanted a pool. Yeah. But ignoring her pleas for why are you doing this? What's going on?
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah, and he just keeps going. Which, that leads us towards this very final moment. You want to talk about what happens here? Well, not the final moment.
Do you have a problem with it? Or
I don't have a problem with this. I do have a problem with later. We'll get to it.
So, ultimately, at this point now, Norma is she's always been unstable. And now, this is the height of it, where he says, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. He's kind of burned a bridge with Betty. He's recognizing his life is terrible. Doesn't really know what to do, but he knows this is a shithole.
Yeah, and his car is officially repossessed at this point. So he literally has
no
way to get out of here, and he has nothing, right? Yeah. But he's still leaving.
And Norm begs him to stay. He keeps walking, and she takes the gun, shoots him. He stumbles, gets shot again, falls right into the pool as the film begins.
Mm-hmm. And then we get the cut in where it's him talking about this is where we started the film.
Yeah.
This leads us to the final scene of the film, which is one of the more famous scenes in the history of cinema. I mean, there are two, as far as lines are concerned. There's another line in this one that's arguable where he says to her, Norma Desmond, you're Norma Desmond, you used to be big. She goes, I am big. It's the pictures that are small. You know, it got small. And then this leads us to I'm ready for my close-up, right? Mm-hmm. This scene, it almost seems like when the cops come to kind of arrest her, again, they just kind of stand around while she walks towards the cop car. It isn't handled like you would handle someone being arrested. That's not my biggest problem in the film, or the biggest problem in the ending, but they kind of just let her come out of the room, and for some reason now Norma Desmond's brain is totally fried. Mm-hmm. She believes that she is actually stepping out onto a film set, and she's the cameras that are the local paparazzi and the local papers. Her butler Max treats them like, and again he gets back in the director chair to tell them when to start taking pictures, and he says action. This whole scene plays out like some sort of German expressionist play written around the same era, maybe a little earlier than that. It's not realistic at all. I mean, it's not. The rest of the film, I guess there is sort of a hyper-realism going on with everything in the film that we've talked about. Like I mentioned, there's no reason to feel creeped out in the film, but I do. But this, I don't think it jumps the shark or anything like that. I think the scene in and of itself is a masterpiece. I feel like the rest of the film in and of itself is a masterpiece. I'm just not sure I buy the connection. Right. Because her brain is like a cracked egg in a frying pan at this point from killing him, and she's been crazy forever. So,
but there was also, her mental stability was so focused on this facade, and Max was so dedicated to making sure that this kind of stays the way it is in this Xanadu-like place. And it's Joe who really kind of starts saying, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Max is the one writing the letters. The studio never wanted your script. They just wanted your car. He's destroying all sense of hope.
She has a total mental breakdown, right? I mean, I guess it's just, it's a lot. It's because it's not just her.
Yeah.
It's the way everyone is reacting to her. Like, I can totally buy that because this happens in real life when people hit rock bottom, when their facade gets turned and the facade gets torn down, and then they're left with confronting reality, and they either confront reality or they totally go off the deep end and reject it, right? I can buy that, but Max standing by the paparazzi and action, it gets.
Well, the whole
would we forgive that?
Warped.
Would we forgive that in a movie today?
I has to earn it.
Yeah, I mean, it has to earn it, but I don't. I think she earns it. I don't know. The rest of the world is. I mean, I'm the only one that's like, this woman just murdered a dude. He's floating in the pool dead. She should be.
We talked about the sympathy level, and I think these cops come in. It's almost imagined as if you haven't heard from her a while, and then Julie Garland murdered someone.
Yeah.
I know she had problems near the end, but like, it was this idea of like, oh, this Hollywood sweetheart who's just been now an older lady in this house, she definitely did it. And as we walk in, she's not panicking. She thinks this is happening.
Yeah, they let her put on her makeup.
They're all like, if she's going to walk out the door, let's let her walk out the door.
It may be a product of not having seen the film. That often. Again, I've seen it 3 times in 12 years, which when we're talking about Sunset Blvd, it's not really a lot, I feel like, because that's a movie that's extremely watchable and also a movie that a lot of people think is probably the best movie ever made. I think it probably is in scenes.
Sure.
But I'll need to see that part again. I never had a problem with it until this time I viewed the film, and you'll get that sometimes when you watch movies. But I was like, wow, this isn't like we're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs land. Like this is just, and I know that's what they were going for. Like I'm not naive to say that isn't exactly what they wanted to do, but it's literally the Max character going and action.
Well, because he's also
I'm like, oh, this guy's nuts too.
Yes.
Which obviously he is, right?
Because he's an ex-husband who's now agreeing to be the butler and never acknowledging. Yes.
Yeah, the more I talk about it now, I mean, again, I always thought the scene exists in and of itself is perfect.
Sure.
It was just the bridge, how we get there. So this is where she said, "Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close up," and she walks straight up to the camera with her eyes.
I think it also helps that Max.
That's the end of the film.
Max lives in her world, so Max he knows he needs to fake the letters, but he actually believes DeMille might do this movie. And he believes that Norma Desmond is the greatest actress alive.
He definitely believes that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with the first part.
Well, he's avoiding certain phone calls, but he goes to the studio with the confidence that she does.
Right, because he has to.
Because he follows Norma's spell.
I think, or he's just some sort of religious nut does something because someone told them to. They do believe in it, and they still carry out the actions. But it to me, it's he took her there because she said she wanted to go there. She was going to go there regardless, and he does agree that they should make the movie. But I never got that Max was naive enough to think they would actually make the film. If that's true, then he would never have been in a position where he had to write the letters to her. He would never have to make those forgeries because he would believe the letters should actually be coming in. Yeah. I think for him, I think I do agree that he is obsessed with her too and thinks she's the greatest actress ever. And by all accounts, from what we hear, she is. The film kind of treats her like the film does her credit to her silent career.
Yeah,
I mean it does do that. So it doesn't say, oh, she wasn't. No, she really was incredible at one time.
We do need to wrap it up, but I guess a question I want to ask you is, as we talk about Norma Desmond's acting abilities, what did you think of her Charlie Chaplin?
I thought that was charming.
I found it so oh God, this is this is off.
Yeah, well,
Not like impression-wise, more of like, you think this is a good idea.
Well, it goes on for a really long time.
I know.
It goes on for an insane amount of time, and obviously it's something that she's rehearsed.
Yeah.
I
bet it's so uncomfortable.
It's weird. It wasn't something that I took from the film, because Charlie Chaplin, even today, is the product of probably more parody than any actor in the history of cinema.
Sure.
So, we're referencing a silent age and the greatest silent film star of all time.
But he made the transition, though.
Yeah.
That's what kind of separates him.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't think about it from that perspective.
Yeah. Because he went on to make The Great Dictator.
Yeah.
Sure, that's cool films, kind of petered out, but Buster Keaton never really made it into the talkies.
That's an interesting point. That's a great point, actually. Yeah. Well, it's creepier now that I think about it that way.
Yeah. Well, this is Sunset Boulevard. It is a film that I truly am amazed by every time I watch it, and we've seen 7 incredible films so far, and this could be my favorite one. Like, I really love this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best. It wouldn't be my favorite film of the list, but nevertheless, it is required watching.
Yeah.
It more so, even though actually probably this time through, actually, it was nice. Ninotchka was fresh.
Yeah.
And it was surprising to me. Mm-hmm. Sunset Boulevard is a film that I've obviously seen before, and it's a film that people talk about a lot. So you go in with a different sort of expectation,
sure.
Especially my own expectations that I have for the film that I've seen before. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, I probably enjoyed watching Ninotchka more.
Yeah.
This go around, but Sunset Boulevard is the film of the two. I think people are going to be watching 50 years from now.
And I think it's very fun as a nice back and forth. Our next week's film is Ace in the Hole, which was very unappreciated at the time. It has now gotten a major critical reappraisal and is now considered one of his best films. So.
I wonder if Criterion helped with that. It is
a
on
bit,
Criterion.
yeah.
When you talk to people about Billy Wilder films,
mm-hmm.
they can be huge Billy Wilder fans. They've never heard of Ace in the Hole.
I know, yeah.
It's really.
And I'm saying it. We'll see. We'll all tune in next week, but it's definitely should be on the list. It's a hell of a movie. So if you haven't seen that one, please, you have 7 days. Check it out. Highly recommend it. Also, during that time, you can... Oh, you want to do the outro?
Yeah, I'll do the outro here.
I don't want to... I talk too much.
Quit taking away my stuff.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah, if you want to get a hold of us, any questions or feedback that you want to give us, you can email us at letstake5@theartimmortal.com. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter, the Twitter handle @TheImmortalsPod. The Immortals is a podcast that Austin does with a group of friends of his that reviews
the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows that you must see before you die. This week we reviewed Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia.
Which is a film we're definitely going to do one day on here as well.
Yes.
So you're going to get your crossover appeal.
And also, episode 1 of The Immortals, we did Sunset Boulevard. So if you want to hear me talk about it for another 20 minutes, episode 1.
Episode 1. Also, if you want to see me, you can check me out on YouTube at Constant Diversion. That's the YouTube channel's name, where I review video games, and hopefully I'm half as smart as I sound on here. Or twice as dumb.
It's all about fractions.
I think I just quoted a Hobbit.
Did you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And of course, you can find all the podcasts at theartimmortal.com. You can leave a comment there about your thoughts on Sunset Boulevard. We'd love to hear from them. And until next week, goodbye.
We will catch you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
I feel like I want to have some grand thing to say, but I don't have it, so I will just leave it with, see you soon.
I like it.
Bye-bye.
Norma, you're a woman of 50. Now grow up. There's nothing tragic about being 50. Not unless you try to be 25.
The greatest star of them all.
Goodbye, Norma.
No one ever leaves a star. That's what makes one a star.